guest here for this first segment of our program is Dan Edwards. And Dan is I'm going to read your title here, Dan.
Sure.
Is the principal investigator of the Solar Soaring Program for the Naval Research Labs. And I don't even know where to begin with you, so I'm just going to let you talk about what kind of solar soaring programs there are that NRL is working for.
Sure. So we have a couple different things we're putting together for solar soaring. The first is solar photovoltaics, trying to look at integrating solar into the composite structures for good aerodynamics and as well as low weight. And the solar really gives you the ability to fly during the daytime basically for free. You're using energy from the atmosphere. The other half of that is autonomous soaring. So I'm sure your audience knows aviation, and everyone sees birds fly, and they fly around doing circles without flapping their wings. So we have taught a computer to do the same thing. It knows how to find thermals, just like the man in the loop. It's feeling the variometer, it's trying to identify where the center of the lift is, and again, gain energy from the atmosphere.
Well, you've brought one item here that we'll do the show and tell here
Sure.
first. And this is a glider, and I'm sure Bree can probably get in pretty close on that. But tell us about this glider and what its function is.
This is a cicada. I don't know if you remember a number of years back in Washington, D.C., there was a cicada brood 2, the infestation.
We had those in Indiana too, and I'm sure you had them in North Carolina.
Absolutely. You basically couldn't walk anywhere without stepping on them. And one of my colleagues said, you know, if each of those had a microphone, we could never have a private conversation. So that was the idea for the cicada program. It was overwhelmed with quantity with relatively low quality sensors. This is the Cicada Mark V, fifth in line, and it is a glider. It has no motor, so you drop it from the sky. It's not a great flyer. L/D is about 3 to 1, but it emplaces a sensor where you want it to. So just like a cicada, you drop it, it flies. Cicada would mate, we do the sensing, and that's the end of the life.
And how is it controlled? Is it an autonomous glider?
It is. It has 2 control surfaces on the wing. These are normal elevons, so move together for pitch control and differentially for roll. And there's an autopilot actually built into the wing. So the wing structure here, this is the autopilot as well as the aerodynamic surface. And that guides the aircraft down.
But you say you've got other projects as well that sound very interesting. And one of them that really intrigues me is you mentioned a flying submarine.
That's correct.
And we don't have a picture, unfortunately, of the flying submarine, and it may be classified, I don't know. But tell me about flying submarines.
So we do a lot of odd projects, that's for sure. Out of the box, NRL is supposed to be looking 5-10 years into the future. What kinds of technologies would be useful to a warfighter in the future? One of the ideas is a flying underwater glider. So underwater gliders have existed for a while. They have a buoyancy engine, no motor. Basically they pump water to descend just like a sailplane would through the air, use wings to move forward, and they can do the same on the reverse. So it's hydrodynamics. We're trying to combine that with aerodynamics to fly. There's some interesting overlap to play. Weight's very critical, buoyancy is very critical, and those are a tough trade.
So is that in a situation where you would use it as a glider to deploy it until it went into the water and then it becomes a submarine? Because obviously you're not going to come back up out of the water and fly.
For this program, no, we're not trying to get back out. We've done other aircraft that come out of tubes that fly out of the water. For this one, we're looking specifically at flying ingress. So fly over the water very rapidly to in place right where you want to be, and then stay on station as an underwater glider for long durations.
When we look at things like the cicada that you brought, and we hear a lot coming out of, say, for instance, DARPA about drone swarms and things of that nature, is that something that NRL is also working on, that they will have large groups of drones that can either operate as a unit or autonomously to perform missions?
For cicada, we have communications to go back and forth. They certainly could do some inter-vehicle communication. We've kind of gone on the philosophy that, at least for cicada, that it's okay to not communicate. It is a big sky. If they bump on launch, we drop a bunch at the same time, that's okay. You lose a couple, that's fine if you're dropping 100. There's certainly other research going on at NRL looking at autonomy in swarms and how do you do the human-machine interaction.
And could those also be in a solar powered configuration that you would have large groups of small drones that were all basically powered for free?
For sure. We've done cooperative autonomous soaring as a partnership with Pennsylvania State University, where we had 2 aircraft that were communicating just like birds do. I look over and see Bob's going up, I guess I'll go to his thermal. Do that same thing, communicating, I have a better thermal, you come to me. There's a cloud over this area, so don't go over there.
There's also been, in the larger aircraft, at least in the commercial side, we've seen a lot of solar-powered aircraft that are intended to be high altitude, long endurance, basically atmospheric satellites. Is this something also that you're looking at as part of your solar program that can bring that technology to the military, or is it technology that's grown out of the military that has gone into the commercial sector?
Well, I won't speak to the high altitude flying programs, those aren't me. We're focused on the low atmosphere, 0 to 10,000 feet, let's say, where the convective activity is strong, and trying to really open up what we can do at those lower altitudes. Solar and the combination soaring is a fun way to do it. At the much higher altitudes, you just don't have the convection. There's different wind currents, and maybe there's some potential there, but
that's not my department, as they say.
A little
in
bit. You have to focus research on something specific.
Sure. So what else are you working on?
We have a whole host of other projects. We do a lot of work. So my group is the Vehicle Research Section, and we're actually in Tactical Electronic Warfare Division, but we do work with a number of other divisions around the lab. We've worked a lot with chemistry, doing fuel cell propulsion systems for unmanned aircraft, and we've worked a lot recently with the Electronics Division, doing the solar cell integration. How do you go from a single cell to an array to the integrated product, and then combine with the rest of the aircraft systems?
When you look at, particularly in solar power, and that technology has come a long way in just the past few years. The solar cells have gotten a lot more efficient. How much power can you now, or how many solar cells, where it used to be an entire wing or an entire aircraft covered in solar cells, has that gotten to the point where it takes a lot fewer of them and that brings down the cost?
Depends on your mission a little bit. If you just want to support flight, maybe say you want to run payloads without having to burn fuel or your battery, you could get away with less solar. Solar efficiency is definitely getting better, but for aircraft it's still ideal to cover as much of the aircraft as you can within reason. There's some weight trades to play there.
And then bring that down for the guy like me who pays taxes to fund this kind of research. What is the benefit of having these kinds of research projects, and without giving away company secrets, or in this case government secrets, where does that go in a year or 5 years?
Everything that we do is to support the warfighter. So we are looking to offload risk, let's say, from a Marine, instead of having the Marine's position exposed multiple times by multiple takeoffs and landings. If that Marine can launch once, fly all day, land after dark, not give away his position, we would consider that a winning scenario. And that's a reason to go fly longer.
So what you're talking about then is an aircraft, for instance, that's deployed in the field that can be either hand launched or catapult launched to get enough flying speed to begin to go out and find its thermals and fly, and then basically stay on station all day, providing reconnaissance and ISR.
In this case, yes. We do a lot of wacky tube-launched aircraft. We have a tube-launched helicopter at the show we're showing for the first time. Tube-launched airplanes, all sorts of weird ways to get into the air.
So describe a tube launch then, because that's something I hadn't heard about.
Sure. So we have in particular an aircraft that comes out of a canister that's in the water, opens a cap, the airplane flies up and out, and then does its mission. Similar for the flying helicopter program. There's a tube that's a specific size and specific length, and we stuffed a helicopter into that, basically. Launches and unfolds and flies away.
Sounds like interesting stuff. I guess what I'm trying to get to is I know that this technology is going to develop very quickly. How much do you pull out of, because you're at a consumer drone show, basically, consumer unmanned show, how much of this can be done in like commercial off-the-shelf technology? How much of it is being developed specifically by Naval Research Labs?
That's a good question. We do draw heavily from what industry does. So the fact that the cell phone in your pocket has very small parts, all of those parts or pieces of them end up in things like the Cicada, where miniaturization really makes a difference for what we can do on the research side. And the same would go for many of the vehicles here. The launch concepts, the whole quadcopter, multi-rotor business is helping make our jobs easier in some ways, and we have to look that much farther down the road as well.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for taking some time to join us this morning. It's been an interesting chat, and it looks a little Chinese, but that's only because of the color of it.
Any color you want. How about that?
Okay, as long as it's black, I guess, like it used to be for the rotary telephones. But Dan, thank you so much for coming to chat with us, and good luck, and I hope you have a productive show.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International's Exponential 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Continental Motors Group. Manned and unmanned, Continental has been a pivotal part of aviation and aerospace history and wants to be a part of your mission. Gas or diesel, certified or experimental, Continental is investing in your future. www.continentalmotors.aero.
Let Patrick Neal and Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonics Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.